Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So, there's a couple of articles that I want to talk about tonight, and I hope that you all can rock with me tonight. I'm just going to get right into it. There are a couple of stories that I have to talk about. This first story deals with Oprah Winfrey making statements about white privilege. And in response to her statement, Senator Ted Cruz actually blasted her. So I want to talk about her statement, talk about his reaction, and then, just interpret what she was saying and just make it plain so everybody can understand. And I'm really interested in hearing from you. I want to know what you all think about this situation. So let's get right into it. I'm going to share my screen. So Oprah Winfrey was on a discussion about the issue of racism and white privilege. And it was an episode entitled Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. And she had a guest on there. And during that particular program, Oprah Winfrey said this. She said, there are white people who are not as powerful as the system of white people, the caste system that's been put in place. But they still, no matter where they are on the rung or the ladder of success, they still have their whiteness. She went on to say, you still have your whiteness. That's what the term white privilege is. It means that whiteness still gives you an advantage no matter what. So in response to this, you had Ted Cruz put out a tweet. And basically, he called those statements utter racist BS. So he put out a tweet and he made that statement, basically saying that it's racist to make this statement and then saying it is BS. So I want to break down those two things. First of all, it is not racist to talk about a system of racism. And that's what we live under. We live under a system of white supremacy, a system of racism, a system that is founded on the enslavement of our people, a system that is founded on genocide of Native people, a system that has been maintained by subjugating Black people, a system that went from one form of oppression to another form of oppression, went from slavery to Jim Crow, and then what you have today is the new Jim Crow as laid out by Michelle Alexander. So it is not racist to call out a system of racism. And that's what often happens when Black people speak out against racism. When they boldly speak out against racism, when they are uncompromising and when they are militant, the first thing that they want to do is label Black people as racist. They also have other labels that they use to try to silence Black people. And that's what you have here. It is not racist to condemn racism. And that's what you have in this society. And the fact of the matter is, everything that Oprah Winfrey said was true. Now, some people may take issue with the fact that you have a billionaire making this statement, a Black woman who's a billionaire. They will say, well, how can you make such a statement about white privilege when you are one of the most privileged members of society? You are a billionaire. You own, you have a lot of wealth, fame, and power. So how can you complain about racism in America? And that's one of the things that they typically do. Like, they take these token examples and they blow them up and they try to use them as some kind of symbol that we have overcome in America, that there's no longer a race problem, that all you have to do is pull yourselves up by your bootstraps and follow the examples of Oprah and all these other people. And, if you are not successful in this society, there's something wrong with you. If you're not successful in this society, that means you're lazy, you're trifling, you're not doing what you need to do to succeed, and you're playing the victim. That's what they try to do. They try to label the rest of the Black community based on these exceptional examples of a Oprah Winfrey or Jay-Z and stuff like that. Those people are such a small section of the Black community that they are not representative of the Black community. And those outliers, those anomalies, which, Oprah Winfrey is, or, somebody like a Michael Jordan, they are anomalies. They don't represent the plight of African American people in this country as a collective. Black people in this country are disproportionately poor. We earn far less wealth than these white people, have far less wealth than white people. When we look at the criminal justice system, we see that far more people, Black people, are incarcerated in this country. Black people face harsher sentences for the same crimes as white people. And this is all documented. Even when a Black person has the same education and the same qualifications, they are less likely to have the same employment opportunities as a white person with less education. Just by the mere name that African Americans have, we're discriminated against. If someone has an ethnic sounding name or a Black sounding name, often they are screened out. So in this society, there are all kinds of barriers and obstacles in the way for Black people. There are all kinds of disparities in this country. When you look at every aspect of society, when you look at healthcare, when you look at educational opportunities, so the fact that you have an Oprah Winfrey in this position of privilege, that doesn't speak to the core point that she raised. Even the poorest white man has certain privileges in the society that a wealthy Black man doesn't have. There are so many countless stories of wealthy Black entertainers, for instance, being racially profiled by the police, being racially profiled in their own neighborhoods. So even though they have acquired success, they still are within the prison of race. They still have a badge of oppression just by the mere color of their skin. So everything that Oprah Winfrey said was valid. Her statements about white privilege, because even the most lowly white person in this society doesn't have to deal with racial profiling. They don't have to deal with certain assumptions that are made about someone just based on the color of their skin. All you have to do is look at all these examples of racial profiling, like Ahmaud Arbery. That brother was just jogging in his neighborhood. And because of that, he's presumed to be a criminal. He's presumed to be up to no good. And these people presume that they had some kind of right to stop and harass this brother. Whereas if that was a poor white kid in that community, they wouldn't have thought twice about that. And we know that for a fact because there have been many white people in that neighborhood that explored that same vacant home that Ahmaud Arbery looked at and went into without taking anything, just like many other people just out of curiosity went into that vacant home. Those white people weren't followed. Those white people weren't harassed. And the same thing is true for Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin was in this well-to-do community when he was stopped by George Zimmerman. Trayvon Martin, by many standards, had a lot of privileges that some white people don't have. He was of a class that many white people are not of. He was in a good community. But that didn't stop a George Zimmerman from assuming that he was up to no good. That didn't stop a George Zimmerman from assuming that he was up to some kind of criminal activity. That didn't stop George Zimmerman from harassing that brother and from shooting that brother through the heart. So, this whole thing just points to the fact that even when you have, a certain status, you're still subjected to racism. All we have to do is look at the case of LeBron James. I remember a few years ago, somebody spray painted some racist stuff on his fence or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Painted some racist message. And what I can do, I'm just going to try to Google that real quick so I can pull up the exact story. Um, just bear with me a second. Yeah, because I remember seeing that story. Yeah, so I'm going to pull it up right now, which is a prime example of exactly what Oprah Winfrey was talking about. So let me just pull this story up. Yeah, so this story was a few years ago, like 3 years ago. Um, and it says that there was racist graffiti on his Los Angeles home. And he went on to say this, as a result of this incident. He said, no matter how much money you have, no matter how famous you are, no matter how many people admire you, being black in America is tough. We've got a long way to go for us as a society and for us as African Americans until we feel equal in America. So here you have somebody that's super famous. He's a superstar. Somebody that's rich who has, certain privileges in society. But in the minds of many people, he's just another nigga. And, there are other examples of that, other examples. And even with Oprah Winfrey, like she was shopping somewhere and somebody, like I think she was abroad, in some foreign country, she was shopping and, they assumed that she couldn't afford a purse. And I'm going to pull that story up real quick too, where she was racially profiled, even though this was in another country. But it just goes to show you that no matter how much wealth you have in this world, Black people are just treated differently, and in America in particular. Um, so let me pull up this article. Just bear with me a second. So she was in Switzerland. So I'm going to show this article so you all can see it. Yeah, so this was in 2013. And it basically said that billionaire U.S. media mogul Oprah Winfrey said she was a victim of racism on a recent trip to Switzerland when a shop assistant refused to show her a handbag because it was too expensive. So here you have Oprah Winfrey, like a billionaire, and these people just assumed that because she was black, that she couldn't afford this particular item. And and she has the wealth to buy anything she wants. So let me so she said, I go into the store and say to the woman, excuse me, may I see that bag over your head? And the lady said, no, it's too expensive. And then Oprah Winfrey said that she again asked to see the bag, a $38,000 crocodile skin number by Tom Ford. And the woman again refused, saying, no, 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 you don't want to see that one. You want to see this one because that one will cost too much and you will not be able to afford that one. So just based on the way that Oprah looks, this woman is assuming that Oprah Winfrey couldn't afford something, assuming that she didn't have the money for it. And then Oprah Winfrey said this. She said, one more time I tried it. I said, but I really do just want to see that one. And then the lady said, I don't want to hurt your feelings. And then, Oprah Winfrey went on to say, okay, thank you so much. You're probably right. I can't afford that one. And walked out of the store. Yeah, so it's just absolutely, so that's just an example of how being rich and wealthy doesn't protect you from racism and white supremacy. Yeah, so I wasn't, oh, you said no image or no audio? You can't hear what I'm saying right now? So can you all hear me? If you all can hit a 7, put a 7 up if you can hear me. I see it's like a few people on here. So if you can let me know if you can hear me, because I don't want to have to do this all over again. But can you all hear me? Can you let me know if you can hear me or not? Put up a 7 if you can hear me. Oh, okay. I see. A lot of people said, okay, I see that there are a lot of 7s. Okay. So people can hear me. Someone mentioned that there was no image. Okay. Shout out to Psycho. I see you there. Um, yeah, for whatever reason, some people couldn't hear what I was saying and they said it was moving slow. So I'm going to check the playback and hopefully it came out all right. But basically, my point is this, like, regardless of somebody's wealth, we're still black. Even the richest black man in this country is still a black person living in America, still a person that is subjected to racial profiling. Um, you hear stories all the time where like rich basketball players or movie stars have been stopped by the police where they assume like that they're in the wrong neighborhood or they question why they're driving a certain type of car and all that kind of stuff. So we're still subjected to racism regardless of what kind of education we have or whatever, or what kind of background we have. And, white people, no matter how poor they are, no matter how poor an individual white person is, or where they are, like whether they're a worker or whether they're educated or whether they're rich or poor, they're not subjected to that kind of abuse. They're not subjected to the same kind of racial profiling a black man is or a black woman is. So I think that what Oprah Winfrey said was on point. And it's just a shame that what these people do is they try to silence you by labeling you as a racist when you're the one speaking out against racism. So, his statements were completely off base to refer to that as BS for all the reasons that I have outlined. And it's just a shame that you got a U.S. senator speaking like this on Twitter. Using this kind of reckless, disrespectful language for somebody, this a successful person that has accomplished much in life, and you're going to say that basically suggest that she's a racist and that she's talking BS and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I just had to share this story with you all. And I'm really interested in hearing what you all have to say about this. So I'm going to be back on here right after this with a couple of other live streams. I have to check out this stream to make sure that everything is fine with the audio. Somebody said that this stream is going. Yeah, somebody said there were some issues with the image and the audio and all that kind of stuff. So I just have to double check it. But anyway, please rate, comment, subscribe, like the video, share the video, hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content on here. So there are a couple of things I'm going to talk about later on today. So I hope that you all can stay with me, rock with me. If not, you can check it out tomorrow. Peace and blessings, everyone. Have a good night.